just for all those people worried about climate change, have a look at this is right out of our window just over here now, and see how beautiful an evening it is. Can you see that over the rooftops of London and a blue sky? What a beautiful thing to have to look out at, isn't it? Why are you looking at the camera? Sorry to all those of you listening on the radio. We were just showing a shot of
Can you zoom in a bit, please?
What's outside. Now, I never know. Donnachadh. Yeah, that's Donnachadh McCarthy. Well-known climate activist and a guy who's just come in from...
Former ballet dancer.
You were, yeah. You were, weren't you? My mother was a ballet dancer.
Really? Many years ago.
Yeah.
Wayne Sleep, we used to know him quite well, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, we do know him quite well. Yeah. So anyway, the fact is that you were at another demonstration today, but this is quite different to the things I normally talk to you about. Tell me about this.
Yeah, today was a march called Restore Nature Now.
Yeah.
It's around 60,000 people came to the centre of London to demand in the general election the political parties act on nature.
What way?
Well, you talked earlier about how British people love their dogs.
Yeah.
British people, there's a real paradox in Britain. Britain as a people loves wildlife. Millions of us are joined the National Trust, the RSPB, the RSPCA, and we love nature. And yet, we're one of the most nature-destroyed nations on earth. We're 7th worst out of 230 countries in the world. 7th worst.
When you're talking about destroying nature, what bits of nature are you talking about?
Well, everything from our forests, our marine life. When I was a kid, when my father was born in 1900, since that day, we've lost 5% of the fish in the ocean. You could walk across the sea.
See, if you were here a few million years ago, you'd be doing the same for the dinosaurs, wouldn't you?
Well, my father wasn't living here a few million years.
It's corporations, though, isn't it? It's raiding the natural resource. I mean, I drove to Eastbourne a couple of weeks ago, didn't get one insect on the screen. In the 70s, it used to be covered in it, didn't it? So that's a big...
And so if you translate that absence of... We've lost 80% of our insects. That means our birds are gone.
But not every species...
So our birds are starving because there's no insects.
Not in my garden, they're not.
That's good.
In fact,
we've lost 56
But the variety
million
of species we lose.
There are 56 million less birds in our air every year now than there was 20, 30
because
years
there's loads of human beings doing stuff. You know, if you don't want all this to disappear, then we need to sort of, I don't know, like in China, maybe you can only have one child for the next 10 years or something like that.
Well, they changed that because it all went badly for it.
But that's what you're going to have to do if you want to fix it.
The birth rate naturally. What's interesting in Britain is we spend almost nothing on nature. I did the calculation before I came in here. We spent 500 million, actually come see us from here, on the Bank Junction underground. We've refurbished it. 500 million.
Lovely job.
That's how much we spent in 10 years on all our national parks. We spend nothing on it. Why? I don't understand the disconnect between politicians and the love people British.
But we have rewilding now and insect hotels. Are they helping at all? All these sort of...
If you're watching us on
help on a small bit.
You can see pictures of the demonstration.
Is it pesticide? Because I know the bees. There's a worry about that because all our food comes from the pollination.
Emma Thompson.
Exactly. That's going on around the world,
flies
isn't it?
around the world in a jet.
We're drenching our soils in pesticide. We're drenching them in artificial products. And what that does, a friend of mine actually used to run 2 farms. One, he cut his farm in half. One was organic, and one was industrial.
So
and
what do you want people to do?
Pick up the soil.
Yeah.
I picked up the soil in one half of the field, lovely brown, as what you would know as loam. Picked up the other side, it was sand. And Michael Gove said, our crisis in the soil, because we're killing all the life in the soil.
What do
We've
you
only
want
got 40
to do?
crops left.
What do you want to do?
So
I mean, the fact is that we have a lot more people. They need to be fed.
Absolutely.
And we can only feed people by using the artificial fertilisers that are going on.
So
until you lose the number of people who, and particularly with all the migrants flooding into this country, we're going to find it more and more difficult.
What about genetic modification?
So one of the things that they've actually asked to do today was we double the amount we pay farmers for protecting nature, so they can farm in a way that protects the soil.
But where do we get the money from to do that? And that'll put the cost of food up. A lot of people can't afford to eat now.
As I said already, we're spending buttons. So if you've doubled the number of buttons you have, you've got 2 buttons instead of 1 button.
Sorry.
So one way of doing it, I said we spend £27 billion on motorways. 2 miles of motorways equals 1 year of what we
Our
spend on
roads
nature.
are in the worst condition
No,
they've ever
motorways.
been.
Motorways.
Our
quite good.
motorways
So if you
have
build
potholes
building
on them.
2 miles of motorway,
Yeah.
it was all we spend on
We're not,
nature.
we're not building any motorways.
So we're spending 27 billion. We've got a budget. of
There's a lot of
27
nature
billion.
next to motorways because it's wild, isn't it? Next to
Exactly.
motorways, there's actually quite a lot
So
of
that's
nature.
one thing. Double the amount we're spending on. Help farmers to do it properly. Secondly, make our nature parks, our national parks, nature parks. So that's one thing.
National
but-
parks are nature parks. What are you talking about?
No, there's almost no money spent on restoring nature in them.
What do you listen? What do you want to spend money on? If you've got a little bit of land, and I was out at a thing the other day where it hadn't been touched, the land, since the Middle Ages or whatever, and it was beautiful.
Where was that?
I'm not going to say on there.
Okay.
But why would you want to interfere with land like that? Leave it. It's just
Absolutely.
natural.
I see a lot
there's
of deer and woodpeckers and owls and eagle. I see it all. So
There's
how
a lovely
come
project.
nature's...
There's a lovely project in Bedfordshire that's just launched an appeal. It's called Strawberry Fields. Look it up. Strawberry Fields Farm. They're putting an appeal for 1.5 million
Liverpool.
to buy it because the farmer stopped trashing it 30 years ago. It's a beautiful nature
You see,
reserve.
one hand you want
And it's going to
farmers to
rewild
be
it.
paid more, and the next you're talking about farmers trashing the land. You can't have it both
Yes, we
ways.
can. Well, one
no,
way-
you can't.
Well, I could give
there
you
are
a way of
too
doing
many
it.
human beings.
One way of doing it.
Too many farmers.
If we switch a lot of our diet, not saying all of our diet, a lot of our diet over from meat to plant-based, it reduces the amount of land that we use for each one of us by around 70%. That would release a huge amount of land for nature, and we could have be well fed and save nature.
Rubbish. Absolute
It's absolutely
total
true.
rubbish. You talk rubbish. And of course that demonstration you were at today will do no good whatsoever. Everybody will just get annoyed with Emma Thompson and others who...
We're already annoyed with
So
them.
if you don't do a demonstration, you vote.
Chris Packham.
So it's asking
Nothing
people to
should
vote
be
in the general election for
No,
political parties.
we're not doing that. Shut up.
I'm
or I'll throw
remembering
you out. You don't come in here.
We can't talk
We
about
can't
that,
do it in Purda. I'll tell you what we can do. I want to bring back capital punishment for the people who sprayed Stonehenge. What do you think about that?
I think that's got nothing to do with nature.
Well, they
Tell that
just
to the
stop
algae. They murdered. They
Look.
murdered algae.
I mean,
No,
look,
it's on the top actually.
appalling. You've seen it.
There isn't any. on it.
Absolutely appalling. And a
Look at
man
that,
in
yeah.
his 70s should know better. Really should know
But
better.
what's really interesting is those two guys did an act of vandalism, and it's all over the media.
Yeah.
There's going to be a march today with 70,000 people. There's no front pages tomorrow.
You
Yeah,
said
no one
60,000.
supports them. No one
Nothing
goes, oh,
else.
I'm going to now support them
He
because of
said
that.
70,000. Trying to...
I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, I know you
No
are.
one's going to go, oh, now I support them.
So
We all know what they're
So
doing.
therefore, what's really interesting is,
Every viewer
did you love
and
nature?
listener, of course I do. I
So
live
what
in
do you
the
think we
middle
should
of it.
do for it?
I think we're doing okay for it.
Well,
I
we've
think we
lost
should have
70% in
less.
my time.
I think I don't notice that.
You don't
the
may not
birds
notice
in
it.
my
You see
garden
more
Well,
eagles
are
now,
very
more
noisy.
owls.
I'm 64 years. I'm 65 actually. I'm 65
God, you
years
don't
of
look
age.
good. do you?
James is a
I'm
lot.
73.
James is a lot more than that.
In my lifetime, we've lost 70% of nature globally
Yeah.
in the planet. That's
Who said
huge.
so?
I think that's a terrible
Who
thing to
said
do.
so?
The,
Who said so? Where's the proof? I don't think there's any proof we've
the
lost it
International
all.
Union on Conservation
You
of
know?
Nature, IUCN,
Yeah.
their figures.
Name one that we've lost.
Well, actually, Ash said very clearly when he said he used to drive in when he was a kid.
But that's
it
actually
was
a benefit
covered in
because you don't have to
insects.
clean your
No, there's
windscreen
none.
as much.
Well, then you have starving birds.
No, you're right.
Hang on.
Well, a lot of the
We're
birds
not
have
talking
gone,
about
haven't
the
they?
protesters anymore, Chuck. Take your finger off my ear.
It's a diversity we've lost rather than the actual numbers, isn't it? 'Cause
It's
we
both,
will.
It's both.
Yeah.
And when I say 70%, we've lost 70%, I don't mean the species. I mean the total numbers of like bears and insects and
We never
squirrels.
had bears.
We've
Yeah, there used to be
lost-
bears
I'm
here,
talking
yeah.
globally.
Yeah.
We used to have bears here.
yeah, it used to
actually.
be bears.
Look, everything, including human beings, are going to eventually be eradicated by nature. And Cyril, I don't know why you smirk.
that's
it's
true,
true.
actually.
Yeah, but I don't want to leave that to my kids.
Well, you might have to. It's
I want,
roulette,
I want
isn't
the
it?
next. I want the next
Ball's
generation.
got to land somewhere.
I want the
And
next
do you really
generation.
think-
I want the
hang on a
next
minute.
generation to have the
No, I've heard all
wildlife that my
before.
father had.
Well,
in
you
his
It's like
farm.
musical chairs, isn't
You
it?
can't have
You
it.
might get it.
Do
It's
you
okay.
think those idiots, those pathetic idiots who sprayed Stonehenge to get all this publicity, were doing any good? All they do is turn people against what you're trying to do.
Well, that protest is about climate. We're talking about nature crisis, and you're actually
Well,
saying,
you're
"I
a
want to
climate
leave a
activist.
better."
See, it's all confused.
Britain loves
But this
nature.
proves it's all
Why can't we
confusing,
invest
isn't
in
it? We're all confused. No one knows what
Why do
these
people
arguments are.
join the RSPB, the RSPCA, the National Trust? Because they love nature. British public loves nature.
Where's the one for algae?
No, they don't.
The
Really,
RSPCA.
I don't think they do.
You love nature. You've got birds in your garden. You love having them.
I also, I know people will hate this, and because I live in the country, and I had a rat that used to visit and eat the food under the bird feeders, and one of my stepdaughters was in the garden. She in her 30s, not a child, and she loves rats. I don't have a problem with rats either. Very nice looking rat, very nice. Yeah, right. But you could walk up to it fairly closely and then it looked and disappeared. I haven't seen it for a while. But
well, some will go for your throat. That's, no, they jump up and
then people will call squirrels tree rats. I love squirrels.
Well, the grey ones have ruined it.
From Winnie the Pooh. That was actually a water vole. Yeah. We've lost 90% in the last 20
And the red
years.
squirrel, talking about squirrels.
And that's a disaster.
Go and demonstrate outside the water companies, because they're the reasons we've lost those. Stay where you are. I want to talk to, who do I want to talk to? Tim Speers is a climate activist too. You're both climate activists. You haven't got an earpiece, so you won't be able to hear this, because the people in there don't do a job properly. Useless. I think I'll change the team, apart from producer, of course, for next week. Right. Tim, what do you say about this? Losing. No, actually.
Are we going to break first?
Are we going to break first?
We're going to break. No.
We're not going to break first. So, Tim, what do you think about these guys who sprayed Stonehenge? You think they did a good job or not?
Yeah, fantastic job. I mean, they've literally brought to attention the greatest threat to humanity.
No one knows what it's about. All we know is they sprayed Stonehenge. No one knows what.
No, everyone knows what Just Stop Oil is.
Do you know?
Everyone. Yes, of course you do.
But why is it about new oil? Why is it only about new oil? Why don't you want to stop old oil? Some people are saying it's oil companies that are funding you.
Right. And
so what's your answer to that? You don't want to answer that?
No, I just said, and so what? Like,
well, isn't that bad if you're being sponsored by the people you're meant to be against?
Hold on. The people that donate money to Just Stop Oil don't have any say in how Just Stop Oil operates.
Don't know.
So you can do good things with bad money.
Well, if you donate millions of pounds, you have no say on what.
Why are you, listen,
no, they don't. They have literally no say whatsoever.
Right, be quiet for a bit. Why are you so thick and stupid? I mean, why are you... No, seriously, why do you believe that net zero will improve everything? If we went to net zero in the next 3 years, who knows how the planet may change? We do know that the planet will change, whether we were on it or not. But the biggest problem to the climate and everything else is there are too many human beings. So what is your answer to that?
Well, my answer is, like, why didn't your parents teach you that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones? You have the audacity to call me stupid. You are one of the dumbest people I've ever spoken to. You're a puppet for billionaires. You're
an idiot,
your point of your job is to divide and conquer narratives for your billionaire masters. You keep on saying we have too many humans on this planet. We have too many billionaires on this planet. Billionaires
what a nasty piece of human flesh.
The true colours come out there.
Goodbye. I'm not bothering with him anymore. Get rid of him now. That's me telling you. What an idiot.
We had him in here once.
Speaking there with plastic headphones on a computer.
Yeah. I mean, it's flooded with oil. If you looked at all his products, it was swimming in oil in his house. Hypocrites.
Tell me, do you really think those sort of people are going to get public sympathy? I can tell you that since Stonehenge was sprayed, I have seen nothing on social media yet condemnation of the people.
Well, you asked him two points I'd pick up there. One is you asked about population. There is a serious issue with 8 billion people on the planet. We're gobbling up the natural world. But what's interesting is if we invest in women's rights. So 3 things. If you fund women's rights in the developing world, you get 3 things. You fund family planning, you fund education for girls, and you fund women into jobs. Those 3 things crash the population explosion, and that's what we should be investing in when we're investing in foreign aid. Make sure that women have human rights. Human rights for women equals population reduction.
Well, listen, I don't like to agree with you much, but I agree. I do tend to agree, and I think we should stop giving the billions of pounds to other countries unless they're doing what we think is going to be good for the planet.
Well, we do give it to women in India because they don't look after women's rights in India. It's terrible. We actually...
Well, it's interesting. 2 things that Boris, I think, disagreed with. Boris and Trump both cut them on the funding that we did for women's rights in Africa. I think that was a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
It's bad for those women, it's bad for the world, because if they have huge families, they're impoverished, but it trashes the environment as well.
Yeah.
So I do agree with that.
I agree.
Donnachadh, thank you for coming in, and it's always a pleasure to debate with you, even if we totally disagree.
You didn't press the ejection button.
No, because we can have a reasonably sensible debate.
We've already thrown 2 out before, so we've got it out of system.
Third time lucky.
Yeah.
Unlike that other climate activist who's just an idiot. Thank you, Donna. Very
Thank you,
good.
guys.
Thank you.